Hi, I'm trying out a kind of a video series possibly to go over some of the themes in the fairy tales to see if you guys are understanding them, help kind of elucidate some of the trickier ones for you. So we'll see if you guys like this and use this, appreciate this. So any feedback you can give me, the more feedback I get, the more likely I am to continue making these videos. Otherwise, I was hoping you guys would participate in the discussion boards and kind of figure things out as you go. But I'm going to go ahead and try to make this video and see what you guys think of it. So I'm going to talk to you guys today a little bit about Donkeyskin, which is a rather strange story. It starts off with a donkey that poops gold, and that sounds pretty fantastic and awesome. But by a couple pages into it, you kind of forget about the gold pooping donkey because you've got a dad who wants to marry his daughter, which is creepy and gross. And that's the reason why this story has kind of fallen out of favor. The story was one of the first stories Perrault wrote. In 1694, he wrote two stories based on fairy tales. He wrote them in rhymed poetry. And then he published them in separate magazines, and in 1695 he wrote Donkeyskin and published it with the two others as a small book. And again, Donkeyskin was written as a rhymed poem in rhymed couplets. In 1697, it came out as part of Tales of My Mother Goose, along with Cinderella, Puss in Boots, Sleeping Beauty, Tom Thumb. Those were his famous fairy tales, and the ones previously written as poems, they've all been translated into prose in English now, but they are less famous than the new ones in Tales of My Mother Goose. So part of the reason why Donkeyskin it's an interesting story. And while it's been adapted several times, there are many different other fairy tale versions of it by different folklore collectors, such as Joseph Jacobs. There are also a lot of contemporary versions of it, such as the novel Deerskin by Robin McKinley, or Angela Carter has a version of it. She's a famous postmodern feminist fairy tale writer from England. Who was very popular during the 1980s. There's one called The Color Master, which is from the point of view of the person who makes the dress, by Amy Bender, and the dressmaker's moral qualms with, should I make a dress that might cause a king to commit incest? Is it bad for me to do that? And her wrestling with that moral question. There's many other different versions of it in movie form and story form. So it's kind of gaining in popularity in some ways. Part of the reason it's gaining in popularity is due to criticism aimed at Cinderella. The criticism aimed at Cinderella has to do with the fairy godmother. In Cinderella doesn't really do anything in the story. She just kind of hangs around the house. She does what her stepmother tells her to, but she doesn't have any choice of her own. She doesn't do anything that she really wants to do. She's just going to stay at home until all of a sudden the fairy godmother appears and is like, hey, here's a dress. I'm going to turn some mice into some people for you, and you can go to the ball. And Cinderella doesn't really have to do anything. She doesn't have much choice in it. When she gets there, she doesn't really pursue the prince. He comes after her. And people say that she is lacking in agency. Agency basically means having the power or ability to create change in your own life. For instance, in Aschenputtel, the prince ends up putting hot glue on the steps of the palace on the third night of the royal ball. And he does that in order to steal Cinderella's shoe. So basically, he's stealing it from her in this kind of stalkerish way. Cinderella has no choice in it. She's not really pursuing the relationship, but he wants her, so he puts glue on the castle stairs in order to get her shoe and find out who she is. even though she's not willing to give that information up on her own. Whereas in Donkeyskin, yes, the dad wants to marry her mostly because he has some kind of selfish desires that are very problematic. But Donkeyskin's not going to put up with it. She's not interested in marrying the king. She runs away. And she runs away. She gets a job. She takes care of herself. And in doing so, when the prince falls in love with her, and she is asked to make a cake, when she makes the cake, she decides to put her ring into it. And in doing so, she pursues the prince. So whereas Cinderella only does what other people tell her to and doesn't come up with any decisions on her own, Donkeyskin decides to turn away and become completely independent. And by becoming independent, she is a stronger character. And that makes her a stronger role model for people who want daughters who are going to be independent, who are able to do things for themselves, and who aren't just going to be bossed around and told what to do all their lives. And that's why Donkeyskin has become more popular, is because it has a stronger female narrator or female character protagonist than just about any other fairy tale. It's certainly one of the strongest female protagonists. And that's one of the reasons why the story has gained in popularity in the last 20 or 30 years, even though it's been unpopular for a long time because of societal discomfort with the theme of incest. In 1910, Arne Thompson, a German folklorist, came up with a system of classification for different folktale types. And he listed Donkeyskin as folktale type number 510, which is tales of unnatural love. Basically love which is sinful in nature. And since being classified as a tale where the thing that sticks out the most is the incest, that's kind of created problems for it. There are variations, of course, that have tried to somewhat mitigate that. In Catskin, which is Joseph Jacobs' version, there is a bylaw which forces the king to marry his daughter. The king does not feel comfortable marrying his daughter, and he helps her to escape in that version. So you don't have the creepy dad going after his daughter, but you have the dad trying to keep from being forced into a relationship with his daughter. And then she goes and becomes independent and is able to move up in society and have her rags to riches moment, much like Cinderella. So the ring is a lot like the shoe, but whereas the shoe, Cinderella has no choice in it, with the ring, you have Donkeyskin chooses to place the ring in there. And the ring is a symbol of marriage. It's a symbol of union. And a lot of times it's kind of like a proposal almost when she puts the ring into the cake. She offers the ring up to the prince. And a woman giving a proposal in that point in time would be seen as very revolutionary, very much against societal norms. And that makes her a really strong character who's pushing a lot of boundaries for the time period the story was written in. And those boundaries are exactly one of the reasons why that story is seen as being more and more popular. Because it encourages women to be more independent, to think more for themselves, and be more self-sufficient, rather than Cinderella, which tells them to just kind of wait until a fairy godmother comes and fixes their life for them. So that's kind of the lowdown on Donkeyskin. If that helped you understand the story better, understand the themes of it better, kind of the purpose, let me know. And I hope to hear from you. Thank you a lot.